Hello everyone, welcome to Java for Beginners. Our first topic is Java Basics. For our objectives, we're going to understand Java. I'll show you how to install Java, then install an IDE and write a simple Java program. Java is a high-level object-oriented programming language that's used to develop web applications, mobile applications, desktop applications, and so on. You want to use Java if you want a stable long-term enterprise job, if you enjoy structured programming, or like to work for large companies such as banks and tech companies. Some features of Java are it's platform independent, meaning that Java applications can work on any operating system. Java is robust and secure, and Java is object-oriented and offers high performance. Some Java developer roles are enterprise software engineer, backend developer, microservices engineer, and full stack developer. Java is made up of the following components: the JDK, the JRE, and the JVM. The JDK stands for the Java Development Kit, and this is software that lets you develop Java applications. The JDK includes the Java compiler and the JRE. The Java compiler converts your source code into bytecode, and bytecode is proprietary code that is interpreted by the JVM or Java Virtual Machine, and this gets started when the Java compiler runs. The JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment, and this allows the compiled Java code or bytecode to run on any computer. The JRE includes the JVM or Java Virtual Machine, and the JVM interprets and runs bytecode on your computer, and the JVM is started with the Java command. Java classes are the building block of a Java program. They contain data and behaviors or fields and methods, and Java classes are defined in a .java source code file. Java source code files contain Java source code, and these files are saved with the .java extension. The source code.java file name must match the public Java class name. So in this example, you can see that I have a class named Hello World. And if this file is saved, it'll be saved as helloworld.java. The main method is the entry point into a Java program, and it is located by the JVM when a new Java program runs. For our first coding practice, we will install Java. So let's go search for JDK. And then click on this Java Downloads link. So let's go for JDK 25 and select your operating system. So I'm on Windows, so you can click that tab and then click this link next to the MSI installer. So once the download is complete, go and double click on the setup file. Click next and click close. So next we'll check to see if Java was installed. So let's go to your command prompt, and in here type Java space -- version. Hit enter. And if you see this, then Java was installed. An IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. It provides a code editor and offers debugging, version control, and code completion tools. Some popular IDEs are IntelliJ IDEA, Eclipse, and Visual Studio Code. For a coding practice, we will install IntelliJ. Let's search for IntelliJ. And then click on Other Versions. And then scroll down till we get to the 2024 section. So you're going to be downloading the free version, the Community Edition. So I'm on Windows, so I'm going to go for this version, the 2024.3.7. So click on that. So once the setup file is downloaded, double click on it to begin the installation. Click Next. And click Install. and then click this checkbox to run IntelliJ, and then click Finish. Once you have IntelliJ installed, double-click on the shortcut on your desktop, and that will open IntelliJ. So that takes care of installing IntelliJ. Next, you'll write your first Java program. To start, you'll need a location for your Java projects. So let's go to the desktop, right-click it, and click on New Folder. And you can name this Java Projects. After that, open IntelliJ, and then click on the New Project button. So from here, let's give the project a name. So let's name this Hello World. And then for the location, click on this folder and click on this desktop icon. And that'll take you to your desktop. Now scroll till you find the name of the folder that you created on your desktop. And once that folder is located, make sure it's selected and then click OK. And from here, set the build system as IntelliJ and select JDK25 as your JDK. And uncheck this Generate Code checkbox. And then click Create. And you'll see your generated Java project. So you can see to the left, you have the Java project folder, Hello World. And here you have the main.java file that has your default code. So if you come here and click this brace, it expands this a little bit more. And you can see that by default, you have a statement that prints out Hello World. So you can select this statement and copy it and come here and paste. And you can change this to your name. Have that read hello in your name. And let's click on this play button here, and I'll run the Java program. And you can see right here in this output window, it displays the results, hello world, and hello, your name. So that takes care of writing a simple Java program. Our next topic is displaying output. For our objectives, we will understand the print and println methods. I'll show you how to combine output with the plus operator, and we will use escape sequences. In Java, output is displayed using the println or print methods. The println method displays output and places a line break or new line character after that output, while the print method displays output without the line break. For our coding practice, we will display output. For this coding activity, we will display output with the print method. So let's come here and type system.out.print, and then opening and closing parentheses and a semicolon. Now the output that you wish to display goes in the parentheses in double quotes. So let's type our 2 double quotes and then type hello, and then a comma and a space. Now let's run the program, and you see hello displayed in the output window. Now let's go and copy this line and then go to the next line and paste. And then let's change this to world. Let's run the program again, and you see that hello and world are displayed on the same line. So the print method displays output without a line break. Next, we'll display output with the println method. So let's come here, and then as a shortcut, you can type SOUT and then hit the tab key. And this will write out the system.out.println statement. So just like before, let's go in the parentheses and type our quotes, and then you can type some text in there. And then you can go to the next line and then print out more text. Let's add 2 more lines. And once you're done, you can run the program. So you see all our text is displayed on separate lines. So the println method displays output and places a line break at the end of the output. You can combine output or strings using the plus operator. And for our coding practice, we will combine output. So let's come here and write a println statement. And in here, let's type John is in a space. And right after the quote, you can hit space and then type the plus operator and hit space again. And let's combine this with a number. So I'll go for 35. So this will combine the string John is with the number 35. So 35 will be automatically converted into a string, which is the equivalent of a text. So right after 35, let's type another plus operator and combine it with another string. So let's come here and type today. Now let's run the program. And you see that the strings are combined with the number 35. Next, we have escape sequences. Now, these are special characters that can alter your output. Some examples of escape sequences in Java are the new line character, horizontal tab, backslash, single quote, and double quote. For our coding practice, we will use escape sequences. So we'll start with the new line character. So the new line character puts a line break at the end of your text. So let's come here. And let's write a print statement. So type system dot out and then print. And let's come here and type line as our text. And then type your semicolon. Now let's copy this line and go to the next line and paste. And then you can change this to break. And you can put a space right after the line. Now let's go and run this. And you see that since we're using the print method, it doesn't offer a line break, so the words line and break are placed on the same line. Now let's go here in the line string, and right after that, let's type the new line character escape sequence. So that's a backslash and then n. So this will put a line break at the end of line. Now let's rerun the program. And you see that break is now on a separate line. So this is the new line character. Next, I'll show you the tab escape sequence. So this tabs text. So let's come here and write a println statement. And there you can type some text. So when we run this, you'll see that it prints out the word tab normally. Now let's come here before the T and then type a backslash and then a T. So this is the tab escape sequence. Now let's rerun the program. And you see that it's now tabbed the word to the right. So you can add as many of these, and the more of these that you add, the more tabs that you get. So I just copied the tab escape sequence and I'm pasting it 2 times. And then when we go rerun the program, you see that I get more tabbing. So that is the tab escape sequence. Next, I'll show you the double quote escape sequence. So this lets you include quotes in your strings. So let's come here and write a println statement. And then in there, let's just type double quote. Now, if you come here before the double and put a quote there, and come after quote and put another quote there, you see that you have some problems. So in order to not have this problem, we need to escape the inner quotes. So let's come before this quote and then type a backslash. So this is an escaped double quote. So basically this quote is now going to appear in the text. So let's come before this quote and type a backslash as well. And let's run the program. And you'll see that we now have the double quotes displayed. And the last escape sequence I'll show you is the backslash. So this escapes backslashes. So let's come here and write our println statement. And then you can type backslash there. And then just type 2 backslashes. So this will include the backslash in your string. And we can add 2 more here at the end. Now let's run the program. And you see that we have the backslashes displayed in our output. Our next topic is data types and variables. For our objectives, we will understand variables and data types. We'll declare and initialize variables and work with var. A data type describes the value for an identifier, for example, a variable. Java data types are categorized as primitive and reference types. Primitive types to the right represent a single value, such as a number or a character, and reference types represent objects. A variable is a label container that stores data, and variables are needed to represent data in your application. When it comes to naming variables, here are some rules that have to be followed. Your variable names should begin with a letter, an underscore, or a currency symbol. Your variable names can include numbers, but a number cannot start with them. A single underscore is not allowed for a variable name. You can't use Java keywords for variable names, so keywords like class or boolean are not allowed. Variable names are case sensitive, and variable naming rules apply to other identifiers such as methods, packages, interfaces, classes, and so on. For coding practice, we will declare and initialize variables. So to start, we specify the data type of the variable. So I'm going to start with the string type. So let's go in the body of the main method and then type string. Next, we specify the name of the variable. So I'm going to call this name, and then we assign a value to the variable. So type equals and then double quotes. So double quotes represents strings. So in there, let's put a name and then type your semicolon. So this statement declares and initializes a string typed variable. Let's do some more. So let's go to the next line and let's make this an int type. And let's name this age and assign a number to it. And then let's go to the next line and let's create a double type variable. So type double and then salary for the name and assign a decimal number to it. Now that we have the variables declared and initialized, we can display their values. So let's go in here and write a println statement. And then let's label this name and combine that with the name variable. And let's go do the same thing for the other variables. So write a print statement and call this age, then combine that with the age variable. And let's do the same for salary. Let's run the program. And you see the values of the variables are displayed. Now, after a variable has been declared and initialized, you can replace that variable with a different value. So this is called reassignment. So let's come here before the prints, and then let's get this name variable, and let's assign it a different name. So I'll go for Jane, and let's run the program. And you see that the name variable has been reassigned with Jane. Now you can declare a variable and then initialize it later. So let's come here and then let's create a variable named color with a string type and then type your semicolon. And then go to the next line and specify the color variable again. And let's assign it a color. So this line declares the variable and this line initializes the variable. Next, I'll show you how to declare and initialize multiple variables on the same line. So let's come here and let's put the string type and then a variable name of name1, and let's assign that a value. Now to put a second variable there, type a comma, and then we'll call this name2 and assign a value as well, and then type a semicolon. So here we have two variables declared and initialized on the same line. So we can also do this. We can just declare a variable without any initialization. So I'll call this name3, type a comma, call this name4. And you can also mix up declaration and initialization. So we can come here after name4, type a comma, just go for name5 and assign a value to it. So that takes care of declaring and initializing multiple variables. The var keyword infers or assumes a data type. So this means that the Java compiler will determine your data type without you explicitly specifying one. Now, var only works with local variables, which are variables declared inside of a method. For coding practice, we will use var. So let's go in here and then type the var keyword. And let's name this variable name. And let's assign it a value. And type your semicolon. So var assumes that the type for this variable is a string because of the value we have assigned to it. So we can use var on other types. So let's go here and then let's name this age and give that a value of 35. So var infers that the type is an int. And let's do the same for a double. So let's name this salary and assign a decimal number to it. So you can see how var eliminates the need for a data type when declaring and initializing variables. So I'll go over some rules with using var. So with var, you can't declare and initialize multiple variables. So for example, you came here and typed var and then a variable a, and then type a comma, and then variable b, and assign to that, you can see that we get an error. So this is not allowed when using var. The next thing that's not allowed with var is you can't switch types. So for example, if we came here and called this a and gave that a value of 35, and later you come here and say a equals and then put quotes in there and try to switch that to a string, then you get an error. So once a type has been assumed or inferred, you can't change it when using var. However, with var, you can reassign a variable. So you can come here and just replace this with a different number. So this is allowed. So that is var. Our next topic is Java comments. For our objectives, we will understand Java comments. Then we'll write single-line comments and write multi-line comments. A comment describes or deactivates code. Comments are ignored by the Java compiler, so they won't crash your program. And the Java comment types are single-line and multi-line comments. A single-line comment deactivates a single line of code, and you can use it to add a heading above your code. Single-line comments start with 2 forward slashes, as shown here. For our coding practice, we will write single-line comments. So you write a single-line comment with 2 forward slashes like this, and then put some text there. So I have this read single-line comment. Now, if you run your program, this comment will be ignored. So you're not going to get an error when you run the program. So with single-line comments, you can add comments next to your code like this. So let's declare and initialize a variable. And next to the statement, you can put your comment explaining what the line of code does. So you can type declare and initialize variable. And with a single-line comment, you can deactivate lines of code that are not needed. So you can come here before this statement and type the 2 forward slashes, and that deactivates that line of code. So that is a single-line comment. A multi-line comment deactivates a block or chunk of code. You can use multi-line comments to describe your code through a paragraph, and multi-line comments start with forward slash and asterisk and ends with the asterisk and forward slash delimiters. For a coding practice, we will write multi-line comments. So to type a multi-line comment, you do this. So come here and type a forward slash and an asterisk. Go to the next line and then type an asterisk and a forward slash. So IntelliJ might do that for you automatically. So in between these, you type your multi-line comment. So just type multi-line and just go to the next line, comment. So you can see that multi-line comments are great for explaining your code using multiple lines or in paragraphs. You can also use multi-line comments to deactivate multiple lines of code like this. So I'm going to go here and just write out some print statements. So I got about 4 lines of code. So to quickly deactivate these lines of code, you can use a multi-line comment rather than going through each line and using a single line comment. So let's come here and type a forward slash and an asterisk, and then go at the end of the code block and then hit enter, and IntelliJ will put the asterisk and the forward slash for you. But if it's not there, just type it yourself. You can see that all these lines have been deactivated. So that is your multi-line comment. Our next topic is Java operators. For our objectives, you'll understand Java operators and arithmetic operators. We'll explore operator precedence and work with compound assignment operators. Java operators are symbols applied to variables and values, and these are also called operands. The Java operator types are the unary operator, which is applied to one operand, the binary operator applied to two operands, and the ternary operator applied to three operands. Here is a table that shows examples of Java operators. Arithmetic operators perform mathematical operations on operands, and they are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus, or the remainder of a division. For coding practice, we will use arithmetic operators. We'll start with creating some integer variables and then using the arithmetic operators on them. So let's come here and create a variable named a and assign it a number. And let's create another variable, b, and assign that a number. Now let's use the addition operator. So let's print out a plus b. And then when you run this, you see that it adds a and b, giving us 12. Let's change this to minus and run. You get an 8. Let's multiply and then run. You get a 20. Let's do a division, run it, you get 5, and let's do modulus, and then run that, and you get a 0, as in 10 divided by 2 is 5, remainder 0. So those are the arithmetic operators. Operator precedence determines the order in which operators are evaluated. Normal order of operations can be overridden with parentheses, and operators with the same precedence are evaluated from left to right. Here's an operator precedence table for the various operators in Java. For our coding practice, we will apply operator precedence. Now let's create some integer variables like this. Now let's apply the order of operations. So let's come here and print out the following. So we'll go for a plus b multiplied by c divided by d minus e. And let's run this, and you should get 12. So following the order of operations, we have multiplication taking place first, and from left to right, we've got the division, and then addition, and then subtraction. So if we come here and wrap up a plus b in parentheses, that's going to have the addition take place first before anything else. So let's go run this, and you see that we get 19. So that is operator precedence. The assignment operator is used to assign a value to a variable. The compound assignment operator performs mathematical operations and assigns the result of that operation to a variable. And here are some examples. For coding practice, we will use compound assignment operators. Let's declare and initialize some integer variables like this. And let's use the first compound assignment operator, plus equals. So let's come here and type a plus equals b and a semicolon. So I'm going to add a comment here and show the equivalent of this. So this is the same as a equals a plus b. Now let's print out a and then run the program. And you see there we get a 12. So this is saying 10 plus 2. That gives you 12, and then it assigns that to a. Now let's use the multiply equals compound assignment operator. So let's replace a here with a b and replace this with a c and change this to multiply equals. I'll take this comment out. So that is the equivalent of b equals b multiplied by c. Let's print out b and let's run the program. And you see that we get a 10. Let's use the minus equals. So let's come here, replace this with a c and d and change this to minus and print out c. Let's run the program and you see that we get a 2. And let's come here and change this to d, replace this with division, And let's change this to 3. Change that to D, and then run the program. And you see that we get a 1. So those are your compound assignment operators. Our next topic is reading keyboard input. For our objectives, we will understand the scanner class. We'll read numerical input and text input, and I'll show you how to handle input loss errors by clearing the keyboard buffer. Keyboard input is collected in Java using the scanner class methods. And here is a table that shows some of those methods. So we have nextInt for reading integers, nextDouble for reading doubles, nextLine for reading a line of text, next for reading a single word, and nextBoolean for reading Boolean values. For our coding practice, we will read numbers. Let's start by creating an integer variable that will be used to collect the keyboard input. So let's come here and type int and name the variable number and type a semicolon. Now, in order to collect keyboard input, we need something called a scanner object. So let's come here and type the word scanner. Now, once you hit the tab key, IntelliJ might automatically add this statement at the top. So what this does is import the scanner class, and it pretty much allows you to use the scanner object methods to collect keyboard input. So if you don't see this statement, just type it. So it says import space java.util.scanner and a semicolon. So let's come back here, hit space, and let's create a variable. So let's call this keyboard. So this variable will be used to call the methods from the scanner class or the scanner object that are used to collect keyboard input. So after that, type a space and then equals, and then type the word new, space, and then scanner, and then opening and closing parentheses and a semicolon. And then in the parentheses, type system.in. So this statement is your scanner object. Now, the next thing will be to generate a prompt to let the user know what to do. So we're just going to ask that they enter an integer. So let's come here and write a print statement. And then in here, type enter and integer. So this is our prompt. Now let's go to the next line. So the next thing is to use that keyboard variable to call the method that lets you input integers. And the input will be assigned to the number variable. So let's type number and then space and then equals, and then type keyboard and type a dot and then next int, opening, closing parentheses and a semicolon. So this statement will collect the keyboard input and then it will assign it to the number variable. So let's go print out the number variable. So let's have it read this. So we're going to say you entered, and let's combine that with the number variable. So let's go test this. So let's run the program, and you see that you have your prompt, enter an integer. So I'll type a 5 and then hit enter. And you see that I get the output that I entered 5. So that is how to collect integers. So next I'll show you how to read a double or decimal number. So let's come here and just change the type here to double. And let's have this read enter a double. Now to collect doubles, you use the next double method. So let's replace int here with double. Now let's run the program, and then we can put in a number. So even if I put in a 5 and hit enter, you can see that it translates as 5.0. So that collects a double, and that covers reading numbers. Next, I'll show you how to read text. To read a line of text, let's start with creating a string variable. So let's come here and type string, and let's name that line. Type your semicolon, and let's create our scanner object. So again, scanner keyboard equals new scanner, and then system.in and a semicolon. And let's go here and generate a prompt. Let's have it read enter a sentence, and make sure this is a print instead of println. so that everything appears on the same line. Now let's go here and then collect the line of text using the next line method. So let's type line and then let's go type keyboard dot next line and then type your semicolon. And let's print out the results and combine that with line. Let's run the program and then you can type your text. Hit enter and you see the output. So that collects a line using the next line method. So the next way to collect text is using the next method. So this collects a single word from a sentence. So let's come here and we can change this to word just to be descriptive. And then here we can say word again. Just replace line with word. And then for the method, we just say next and change that to word there. Now let's run the program. And then I'm going to enter the same sentence again and then hit enter. So you notice that it only takes the first word that it encounters. So as soon as a space is encountered, that is ignored. So that is what the next method does. So if you want to get the rest of the words from the sentence, you need to call next more times. So for example, if I come here and copy that line and come here and paste, and then we can print out word again. And then we go run this, and then I'll type the same thing and hit enter. So you can see that it got Java for the first next call, and then is for the second next call. So that is the next method, and that covers reading text. For this coding practice, I'll show you how to handle input loss errors by clearing the keyboard buffer, which is an area of computer memory. In this activity, I'll show you how to address an error that occurs when you collect text after numbers. So let's come here and create some variables. So let's make this an int. I'll name that age. And then let's make this a double, name that salary, and make this a string, and name that name. Let's create a scanner object. Now let's generate a prompt for the age. So let's come here and write the print statement. And let's have this read, enter your age. Next, let's use the next int method and assign the result to the age variable. So let's come here and type age and then keyboard.nextInt. Now let's generate a prompt for the salary. So come here and then enter this. Let's get the salary variable and then type keyboard.nextDouble. And let's generate a prompt for the name. And come here and type name equals keyboard.nextLine. Now let's print out the variables combined like this. Now let's run the program. So let's enter an age and hit enter, then a salary and hit enter. And you see that the prompt for collecting the name has been skipped. So this is happening because next line does not have the ability to do something called clearing the keyboard buffer. And that happens when you enter input. So we need to manually clear that keyboard buffer so that we can use this next line statement. So to do that, just select the statement here, copy it, and just before that statement, paste. So that statement right here is going to clear the keyboard buffer, and it'll allow the next line statement to work normally. So let's come here and rerun this, and let's enter an age, salary, and now you can see you have a prompt for your name. And then let's hit enter. And you can see that it outputs all the data that was entered. So that is how to clear the keyboard buffer. Our next topic is conditional statements. For our objectives, we will understand conditional statements. We'll explore relational operators, work with conditional operators, and use the switch statement. A conditional statement is a decision structure that executes code conditionally. Conditions are also known as Boolean expressions. Conditions return true or false values, which are Boolean values, and conditions are written using relational operators equality operators, and conditional operators. Here is a table that shows relational operators. So you can see that relational operators compare two variables or values, and it returns a Boolean, which is either true or false. This table here shows equality operators, and it checks to see if two variables or values are equal, and it returns a Boolean. So we have the equality operator and the inequality or not equal operator. Java conditional statements consist of the if statement, which executes a block of code if a condition is true, the if-else statement, which executes code if a condition is true or another block if that condition is false, and the if-else statement, which executes one block of code if a condition is true or the else block if all the conditions are false. For our coding practice, we will write conditional statements. To start, let's create some integer variables like this. Now, the first conditional statement we'll cover is the if statement. So we're going to use that to compare these variables. So let's come here and type if, parentheses, and then braces. And in the parentheses, we'll write our condition. So type A less than B. So A is 5 and B is 10. So this will be true. So let's go inside of the braces and write a statement that gets executed once this condition is evaluated as true. So let's have this read A, and let's combine that with is less than B. Let's run the program, and you see that we get the message. Let's try some more relational operators. So let's come here, change that to B, change that to A, and let's make this the greater than sign. So change your messaging accordingly. So let's have this read B is greater than A. So B is 10, A is 5, so this would be true, and we can run. And we get the message. Let's try the equal operator. So let's come here and replace greater than with 2 equals, and now let's change this to C. And let's change our messaging accordingly. So we're going to have this say B is equal to C. Let's run this, and we get this. Let's try the not equal operator. So let's come here, change that to not equals, or the exclamation mark. And let's change this to A, and change that to B. And let's have this read a different message. So we're going to say A is not equal to B. Let's run this, and you see that we get that. Now let's try the less than or equal to relational operator. So let's come here and replace that with a less than, and let's change the messaging. So we're going to have this read A is less than or equal to B. So let's run this, and you see that we get that. And let's try the greater than or equal to operator. So let's come here, change that, and let's flip this. So make this a B, and make that an A, and change your messaging. So just replace this with greater, and flip this. So make that B, and make that A. And let's run this, and you get your message. So that takes care of the if statement. So the next conditional statement is the if-else statement. So let's come here and rewrite this. So it says A greater than B, and then let's change this. So that's the if part. So right after the brace, we come here and type else, and then braces. And in there, we can print out the opposite of this. So copy that and paste, and just have this say A is not greater than B. So A is 5, so we know that 5 is less than B. So this condition will be false, and that's only when the else statement gets executed. So let's go ahead and run this, and you see that we get the message from the else statement. So that is your if-else statement. And we have the if-else statement. So let's go try that. So we can leave this as A greater than B, and then we can come here right after the if, and then type else if, and then parentheses and braces. So inside of the else if, we can say A equals B, And then let's print out the message. A is equal to B. And we can write another else if statement. So select that else if block and copy it and go to the next line and then paste. And we can change this to read B greater than C. And let's change this to read B is greater than C. And for this else statement, let's change this to say none of the conditions are true. So let's take a look at the if-else-if statement as a whole. So we know that A is 5 and B is 10. So this condition will be false. So this does not get executed. And we know that 5 is not equal to 10. So this will not get executed. Here, B is 10 and C is 10. So this is false. So this part will not get executed. So the only other part that's left is the else block. So let's go run this. And you should see that we get our message saying that none of the conditions are true. So that is the if else, and if else statement. Conditional operators compare two or more conditions and returns a Boolean. The Java conditional operators are the AND operator represented by 2 ampersands and the OR operator represented by 2 vertical pipes. For the AND operator, both conditions have to be true for the entire Boolean expression to be true, and for the OR operator, only one of the Boolean expressions should be true in order for the Boolean expression to be evaluated as true. For our coding practice, we will use conditional operators. The first conditional operator we'll cover is the AND operator. So it has some integer variables created like this. And let's come here and then type if, parentheses, and braces. And inside of the parentheses, type A less than B, and then a space. And then type 2 ampersands. And then after that, type B greater than A. So the AND operator allows us to check 2 conditions. So this A less than B and B greater than A both need to be true for the entire expression to be true. So let's come here and print out a message like this. And let's run the program. And you see that we get our message. So the benefit of using the AND operator is it saves you having to write multiple if statements. So you can combine as many conditions you want with the AND operator. Just know that all the conditions have to be true for the Boolean expression to be evaluated as true. Next, we'll go with the OR operator. So let's come here and replace that with the vertical pipes, 2 of them. And let's change this condition to read B equals A. So here you can see that 5 is less than 10. However, 10 is not equal to 5. So for the OR operator, just one of the conditions needs to be true for everything or the entire expression to be evaluated as true. So let's come here and change the messaging to this. And let's run the program. And you see that we get our message. So those are the and or conditional operators. The switch statement evaluates a single value before executing code in a branch. You can think of the switch statement as an equivalent to the if-else statement. For our coding practice, we will write a switch statement. So let's create an integer variable representing the day of the week. So type int, let's name that day, and assign that a value 2. Next, let's write the switch statement. So come here and type switch, opening parentheses and closing parentheses, and curly braces. Now let's go in the parentheses and then type day, and then let's go in the braces. Now let's write our first case. So type case, and then 1, and then a colon, and hit enter. And let's write a print statement. And let's have this read Sunday. And after that, type break. So this is the equivalent of saying if day is equal to 1, then print out Sunday. So we can write as many cases as we want, but let's write a second one. So copy this first case and hit enter. and then paste. And let's change this to read 2. And let's have this be Monday. And then let's come here and then type default, colon, and then let's print out this. So the default block is the equivalent of an else statement. So that is your switch statement. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. And you can see that we get Monday because day matches 2. So that is your switch statement. Our next topic is loops. For our objectives, we will understand loops, use the break statement, and use the continue statement. A loop is a repetition structure that executes your code repeatedly. Loops are used because they can save time when writing and running repetitive code. Loops also keep your program running indefinitely until it is interrupted. The Java loop types are for, while, and do-while loops. The for loop executes code repeatedly until a condition is false. For loops execute code a specific number of times, and you want to use for loops when you know the number of times your code is going to repeat or iterate. This shows the order of execution for a for loop. First thing that occurs is the initialization. Then second is the Boolean expression, which is a condition that keeps the loop running. Third step is the execution of code within the loop. And the fourth step is an update statement, which will update a value that's used in the Boolean expression. And after the update statement takes place, you return to step 2. For our coding practice, we will write a for loop. To write our for loop, let's start with the keyword for. So let's come here and type for and parentheses and braces. Let's go into parentheses. So the first part of the for loop is the initialization. So this will be a starting value for our loop. So let's type int and let's name this I and then equal to 0 and then a semicolon. So I is a common name for loops. So let's come here and write the second part of the for loop, which is our Boolean expression. So provided this condition or Boolean expression is true, the loop will run. So we're going to have it say I less than 5 and then type a semicolon. Now the next part of the loop is the code that gets executed if the condition is true. So let's come here in the body of the for loop or in the braces and let's just print out I for now. So that's the third part. And the last bit of the for loop is the update statement. So I has to be updated or incremented so that we don't end up in an infinite loop. So right here, we type I plus plus, and we don't put a semicolon here. So that is our for loop. So we have the initialization, which assigns 0 to I, and then we have our condition. So at this point, I is 0, so 0 is less than 5. So because that is true, we're going to print out I, which is 0, and then we come here and update or increment I. So plus plus will make I 1. And then we come here to the condition. Is 1 less than 5? Yes, it is. And we're going to print out I, which will be 1. So it keeps going in a circle like this. And at some point, I will be 5. So once that's true, we come here. And we're going to say is I, which is 5, less than 5. This will be false. So at that point, we break out of the loop. Now, let's go run the program. And you see that for each iteration of the loop, the value of I is printed out. And you can also do some more things with I. So for example, you can combine I with a string. So we can come here and just say hello and combine that with I. And when we run this, you see that we get hello 5 times, but combined with I. So that is your for loop. A while loop executes code repeatedly while a condition is true. And you want to use a while loop when the number of repetitions is unknown. For coding practice, we will write a while loop. So we're going to write a while loop that's controlled by keyboard input. So let's come here and create a scanner object. So make sure that you have your import statement at the top. Now let's generate a prompt and have it read enter 0 to stop. Now let's go collect an int and assign it to an int variable. So come here and type int, and let's name that number, and then we'll say it's equal to keyboard.nextInt. So we're going to write the while loop next. So let's come here and type while, parentheses, and then braces. So for the Boolean expression, we're going to keep this loop running provided number is greater than 0. So type number greater than 0. So inside of the body of the loop, what we'll do is we'll generate another prompt so that the user gets a chance to enter another number that's going to terminate the loop. So we can come here and select this part, copy it and paste, and then let's go take this part and copy it and paste, and notice that it's not including the int so that the variable doesn't get redeclared. And we can also go here and put a statement here, just a message to say that our loop is running. So that takes care of the while loop. So let's go outside of the while loop and print out another message to indicate that our program has ended. So let's have this read goodbye. Okay, so that is our while loop. Now let's run the program. So the first time this is run, we're going to be prompted to enter 0 to stop. So I'm going to put in a 3 there. And once I hit enter, number becomes 3. So when we get to the while loop, it's going to check the condition. While 3 is greater than 0, keep doing this. So this condition is true. So we're going to go in here into this prompt in the loop. So hit enter, and you can see that I get the loop running message, and we are at this prompt within the loop. So if I keep entering a number that's greater than 0, I'm going to keep being in this loop. So once I'm ready to terminate the loop, I need to enter a number that's going to make this condition false. So it can be 0 or any number less than 0. So I'll put in a 0 and then hit enter. And that terminates the loop, and we get our goodbye message. So that is the while loop. So you can see that you use while loops when you're unsure of the number of repetitions that are going to occur in your program. A do while loop executes code at least once, and then after that repeatedly until the condition is false. Use a do while loop if you intend to execute the code inside of the loop at least once. For our coding practice, we will write a do while loop. For a do while loop, we're going to use keyboard input to control it as well. So let's come here and then create an int variable, name number, and assign it a value of 0. And let's create a scanner object. Next, let's create the do while loop. So type do, and then braces, and then while, parentheses, and a semicolon. So let's go in between the braces and hit enter. And then let's go in the body of the do while loop and specify what happens. So let's print out this message. So we'll say loop runs at least once. And let's go generate a prompt that reads enter 0 to quit. And then let's type number and assign it an int. So type your keyboard.nextInt statement. Now let's go inside of the while section and write our condition. So we're going to run this do while loop provided number is greater than 0. Now let's run the program. You can see immediately we're thrust into the do while loop. So it has to run at least once. So let's come in here and put in a number that's greater than 0. And you can see that we keep being in the loop. And when we're ready to terminate it, let's put in a 0. And once you hit enter, number will be 0, and this becomes false. And then we break out of the loop. So that is your do while loop. The break statement ends a loop early, and it provides you with control over the iterations in your loop. Break statements are suitable when ending searches. For our coding practice, we will use the break statement. We'll use the break statement to break out of a loop once a number has been detected. So let's come here and write a for loop. And let's have the loop start at 0. So come in here and type int I equals 0. And we'll run the loop as long as I is less than 10. Type I++. And we now have a loop that iterates 10 times. So let's go in the body of the loop and print out I. Now let's run the program. And you see that we get 0 to 9. So we're going to use the break statement to break out of the loop once the condition is true. So once I becomes a certain number, that is when we will break out of the loop. So let's come here and write our if statement. So type if parentheses and then your braces. And in the parentheses, let's type if I is equal to 5. So once this condition is true, then we'll break out of the loop. So let's go in the braces and type the break statement and type your semicolon. Now let's run the program. And you'll see that not all the numbers get output, because once we get to this condition, once I becomes 5, then we break out of the loop. So that is the break statement. The continue statement ends the current iteration and resumes the next iteration of a loop, and continue is suitable for filtering information. For coding practice, we will use the continue statement. Now we'll use the continue statement to filter numbers in a loop. So continuing from our last coding activity, we're going to make some changes here. So let's go in our if statement and have this say if I modulus 2 is equal to 0. So we're saying if I divided by 2 gives a remainder of 0, then we're going to do something. So let's come here and replace break with continue. And let's take this print statement, cut it out, and let's paste it after the if statement. So what's going to happen is the even numbers are going to be filtered out of this loop, and only the odd ones will be printed out. So let's come here and run our program. And you see only the odd numbers are printed out because our continue statement only applies to even numbers. Next, we'll start work on our projects. For projects, we will create a percentage change calculator, a compound interest calculator, and a prime number finder app. Our first project is the percentage change calculator. First, we'll create the variables for the original amount and new amount. Let's go in the body of the main method and make this a double type, and name the variables original amount and new amount. Next, we'll create a variable for the user's choice. So let's make this an int, name the variable choice, and assign it a value of 1. Let's create a scanner object. Next, we'll create the loop for the program. So we're going to make this a while loop. So let's come here and say while in our braces. And we'll run the loop while choice is greater than 0. Let's go in the body of the loop. Now we will collect input for the original amount. So let's write a prompt like this. And let's collect a double and assign it to the original amount variable. So type original amount and assign a keyboard.next double. Next, let's collect input for the new amount. So let's write this prompt and assign the new amount variable a double. So type new amount and keyboard.next double. Now we will calculate the percentage change. So let's go here and create a variable named result. So let's make that a double type, result, and then parentheses and a semicolon. So in the parentheses, type another set of parentheses, and then type new amount minus original amount. Let's go outside of the parentheses here and type division and then original amount. Let's go outside of this parentheses and multiply that by 100. Next, we'll display the results. So let's create an if statement. So we're going to say if result is greater than 0.0, then let's display this output. Let's write an else if statement. And for this, we'll say if result is less than 0.0, then let's display this output. And let's write an else statement and display this output. Next, let's prompt the user to enter a value to either continue using the program or terminate the loop. So let's write this prompt and then type the choice variable and assign it keyboard.nextInt. Now let's go outside of the loop and display our exit message. Now let's run the program. So let's start with an original amount of 10, hit enter, and then a new amount of 25 and hit enter. So you see it shows that you get a profit of 150%. Let's enter 1 to continue using the program. Now let's start with an original amount of 10, and let's enter 5 for the new amount and hit enter, and you see that we get the loss message. And then let's hit 1 again, and then let's put in an original amount of 10, a new amount of 10, and we get the break-even message. And then type a 0 and enter to quit the program. So that is your percentage change calculator. Our second project is the compound interest calculator. First, we'll create the variables for the amount, principal, and interest rate. So let's go in the body of the main method, and then let's start with a double type. Now let's name the variables A, P, and R. Next, let's create variables for the time, compounding frequency, and the user's choice. So let's go to the next line and make this an int type and name the variables T, N, and choice. And let's assign choice a value of 1. Next, let's create the loop. So we're going to use a do while loop. So let's go here and set that up. So we'll run the loop while choice is greater than 0. Let's go in the body of the do while loop and let's begin the program. So we're going to create a scanner object. So let's do that. Next, we'll collect the principal. So let's go write a prompt like this and have it read current principal. And let's go collect a double and assign it to the P variable for the principal. So type P and then equals keyboard.next double. Next, we'll collect the years to grow or time. So let's write a prompt like this. Let's have it read years to grow. And let's collect an int. So let's get our T variable and then assign it keyboard.nextInt. Next, let's get the interest rate. So let's write a prompt like this. Just have it read interest rate. And let's get a double and assign it to the R variable. So type R equals, and then keyboard.next double. And let's get the compounding frequency. So let's write our prompt like this. And then let's get an int and assign it to the N variable. So type N and then equals keyboard.nextInt. Now we will write the formula for the compound interest. So Java has a method named pal from the math class, and this is going to be used as part of the formula. So let's come here and then type A as in the amount, and let's assign it the formula. So type P multiplied by math.pow and then parentheses. So this is the pal method. So inside of the parentheses, we will specify the base. So pal is used to raise a number to a power. So let's start with the base. So type parentheses, opening and closing parentheses, and then inside of there type the equation 1 plus r divided by n. And then right after this parentheses, let's type a comma. And we're going to specify the index or exponent. So let's come here and type n times t. And then type your semicolon here. So that is the compounding interest formula. Now let's go display the results, which will be the future value and interest earned. So let's come here and have this read future value. And then combine that with A. Let's go write another print statement. And let's have this read interest earned. And let's combine this with A minus P. So let's come here and put A in parentheses, and in the parentheses type minus P. Now let's go write a prompt to allow the user enter another value to either terminate the loop or continue using the program. So let's come here and write this prompt. And then let's go get our choice variable. And then let's assign it keyboard.nextInt. All right, so let's go outside of the do while loop right here. And let's display a message to indicate that the program is ended. So let's have the message read goodbye. Now let's run the program. So you'll be prompted to enter a principal. So I'll go for 5,000. Hit enter. Next, you'll be prompted for the years to grow. So I'll go for 10 years. Hit enter. And next we'll be prompted for the interest rate. So I'll go for 5%. So enter that as a decimal. So type 0.05 and then hit enter. And last, you'll be asked to enter the compounding frequency. So I'll go for 12, which represents a monthly frequency. Hit enter. And you see the results of the future value and the interest earned. And you'll be prompted to either enter 0 or a negative number to quit the program or continue using it. So I'll type a 1 to continue using it, and you'll be prompted again to enter more values. So I'll go for 10,000, 25 years, go for an interest rate of 10%, it's in 0.1, and then compound that monthly. So hit enter, and you get these results. And you can type a 0 or a negative number to quit the program. So that is our compound interest calculator. Our last project is the prime number finder application. First, let's create some variables for the program. Let's go in the main method and then type int, and let's name this variable number and assign it a value of 0. Now, this variable will hold the number that's going to be checked if it's a prime number or not. Let's add another variable and name this factor and assign it a value of 0. Now, this variable will keep track of the number of divisions that take place when we're checking if a number is a prime number or not. So, for example, a prime number will have 2 divisions that take place, a division by 1 and a division by itself. And if it's not a prime number, it's going to be a different number of divisions. So let's add another variable and name that choice and assign that a value of 1. So this variable is going to be used to control our main loop. Next, let's create a scanner object. Next, let's create our main loop. So we're going to use a while loop. So let's come here and write that. And we'll run the loop while choice is greater than 0. Now let's go in the body of the loop. So the first thing we'll do in the loop is get the number from the user. So let's write this prompt like this. Now let's collect an int and assign it to the number variable. So type number equals keyboard.nextInt. Now at this point, the user could enter a number that's less than 1. So if that happens, we want to break out of the loop. So let's come here and type if, and then number less than 1, and then we break. Now we're going to write a for loop that's going to handle the prime number checking logic. So let's come here and type for parentheses, braces. Now mind you, this for loop is within the while loop. So let's go in here and type int, and then I will start the loop at 1. I equals 1, and then a semicolon. And then type I less than or equal to a number, and then I plus plus. Let's go in the body of the for loop. Now in the for loop, type if parentheses number modulus I equals 0, and then your braces. So if this condition is true, we will increment the factor by 1. So type factor plus equals 1, and then type your semicolon. Now, we're checking for 2 divisions. So if we get more than 2 divisions, we want to break out of this for loop. So let's come here and type if, parentheses, and then factor greater than 2. So this is true. Let's break out of the loop. So let's take a look at how this for loop would work. So if the user entered a number 4, we're going to get into this loop. So we're going to say if 4 modulo I, which is currently 1, is equal to 0, then increment factor by 1. So number is 4, I is 1, 4 divided by 1 is 4, and the remainder is 0. So the factor will be incremented by 1. So factor becomes 1. And this condition checks to see if factor is greater than 2, which is false. So we're not going to break out of the loop. So I gets incremented and it becomes 2. So now we're going to check to see if 4 divided by 2 gives a remainder of 0, which is true. So factor gets incremented by 1 again, and factor becomes 2. So we're going to check to see if 2 is greater than 2. This is false. So we're going to have I incremented again. I becomes 3. So we're going to check to see if 4 divided by 3 gives a remainder of 0, which is false. So the factor never gets incremented. And of course, this gets ignored. And then we go increment I becomes 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, remainder 0. So the factor gets incremented by 1 and becomes 3. So at this point, the factor is 3. So 3 greater than 2 means this is true. So we're going to break out of this loop. So pretty much 4 at this point is not a prime number. So let's come here outside of this for loop. And then we're going to display the results. So type if, and then factor equals 2. So if this is true, let's print out this message. So we're going to say number, and then we'll combine that with the string is a prime number. And then let's go here and write an else statement. Let's have that read number is not a prime number. So right after the else statement, we want to reset our factor to 0, just in case we use the loop again. So type factor equals 0. And then we will prompt the user if they want to continue using the program or not. So let's come here and write a prompt for that. So we will say enter 0 to quit. And then let's get our choice variable and assign that keyboard.nextInt. Now let's go outside of the while loop, and then let's display an exit message. We'll go for goodbye. Now let's run the program. So we'll be prompted to enter a number. So let's say we enter 0. The program terminates because we break out of that loop the first time. Now let's run the program again. Now let's put in a 2. So you see that we get that 2 is a prime number. So we're prompted to continue using the program, or 0 to quit, or any other number less than that. So I'll go for 1 to continue using the program, and then we can test more numbers. So I'll go for 4. You can see that we get that 4 is not a prime number. And then we can type 0 to quit, and that is our prime number checking program. Congratulations to everybody for completing Java for Beginners. Be sure to check out the follow-up course. Thank you.